Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hometown Talents and Treasures. We are on location. We are at Chris Boshar's house. Chris suffered a spinal cord injury in July of 2011 while he was with a friend. And Chris, we're so pleased that you're giving us the time to be
Thanks.
here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. It's an honor to be here.
Take us back to July 2011.
July 2nd, 2011. My family, we have a place on Lake Winnisquam in New Hampshire, Meredith, New Hampshire, and kind of family tradition is to have a 4th of July weekend party. Look at you. Oh, sorry. 4th of July party at the lake house. We've been doing it for about 10 years or so, so it's a weekend that everyone looks forward to, so the whole crew's up, friends, family, the whole 9 yards. And we go to a place on the lake, we take our pontoon boat out there, and it's a sandbar. And it's where everybody from the lake pretty much congregates there. It's hundreds of boats, and like I said, we do this every year, and we're having a good time. And I went on the boat to have a sandwich and change the radio station. And after I had my sandwich, I went to jump over the railing of the boat, and my feet hit the railing, and I kind of went front forward. And I tried to save myself by going into a dive, but it's pretty shallow water, maybe 3.5 feet or so. And my head hit the sandbar, and I broke my cervical disc, my C4, C5, and I was instantly paralyzed from the shoulders down. So I hit the bottom, and I slowly floated up.
What were you thinking?
Well, it's kind of funny. It's not funny, but it's about a second or so. Feels like minutes, and you're floating there and trying to make amends with everything that's going on, trying to figure it all out, and your whole body's tingling, and you're trying to rotate yourself to get a breath of air, and you're saying, hey, this might really be it. And it kind of sounds cliche because everyone that has this accident says the same thing, but that's exactly what's going through your head. It's like, hey, this might very well be it. I fell off towards the back of the boat, and everyone kind of is hanging out towards the bow of the boat. And luckily for me, my mother had heard the splash, and she went to the back of the boat and turned me over, where I explained to her that I was in serious trouble. And then the whole sandbar just got really quiet, and my family found medics, and they stabilized me, and then they took me out of the water, and I went to the hospital.
And you spent 23 days in the hospital.
27 days in
27 days in the
ICU at Mass
hospital.
General. No, it gets further than that. And then I flew down to Atlanta, where I was there for 3.5 months at a spinal cord injury facility that specializes. It's world-renowned, the Shepherd Center in Atlanta, Georgia. I was there for 3.5 months, and then I came back to Boston, and I was at Whittier Rehab for about a month. So I was in the hospital for quite some time, 4.5 months, 5 months.
You do a lot of speaking out about spinal cord injury and so forth. Your website, Restore the Bosh. How did you come to terms that you would possibly never walk again?
So I don't think you quite come to terms with that. You just you have to get it into your head that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. One of my weakest points in my own personality was a lack of patience before I got hurt. I think we all kind of struggle with that, and patience is a tough thing, and this injury is a testament to patience. I mean, patience is everything that you do now. So while you're laying in that bed tethered to life support, and you're trying to figure out your life moving forward, you're saying, hey, listen, there's two roads you can take, and one of them is that you can be this miserable guy that's that no one's going to really want to be around and help you out, or you can live the life that that not necessarily the one that you wanted, but you can make the best of it. And you're going back and forth, and I said, it's got to be the latter of the two. I got to be that guy that people want to be around and make the most of my life, regardless if I walk. But I also want to look back at my life, if it's 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and say I did everything in my ability to get up and try to get out of this chair. Whether it's bring awareness to spinal cord injury, I want to do my part. And that's why I do aggressive therapy. I'm doing therapy 5 days a week, and I speak out to bring awareness. And I'm affiliated with a couple organizations, and I have some future plans that I want to be an advocate. I want to have a strong role in the spinal cord injury community. Just kind of like look at Christopher Reeves. He did his part. He brought the torch. He believed in the cure. He brought the torch as far as he could. And I feel as though my generation, people that get hurt now, are responsible for bringing that torch as far as we can.
I did see that you're getting different kinds of therapies, trying out different things. What have you found to be the most challenging, and what have you found to be the most rewarding part of therapy, and talk specifically about what you're doing now.
Sure. So all my therapy is relatively the same. It's aggressive therapy, functional therapy. I go to a facility down in Canton, Mass. that specializes in spinal cord injury, and I also go to a woman up in New Hampshire a few times a week that she's going to be opening up her own facility. The hardest part for me is not the actual therapy. I was a huge fitness guru before I got hurt, and I was probably in the best shape of my life when I got hurt. The hardest part for me at therapy is not the actual therapy. It's realizing that this is what I'm doing for a workout. When you're accustomed, when you have the bar set so high, at the time I was training for a half Ironman before I got hurt, and you're used to that caliber of training, and then, these places, these gyms, they have mirrors everywhere, and you're watching this person that used to be so physically fit, being carried from station to station. The simplicity of just being able to get up and go from one piece of equipment to the others, I don't have that. You watch and you realize it's happening to you, but then you see it in the mirror, and it's like, wow, I can't, look where I've gone to from being this guy that was running, swimming, biking, so active to now, you need help going from one station to the next. So I'd say that's the hardest part. The results from all the therapy is very similar. So all the therapy I'm doing is very similar. But that's what you have to do. I believe in a cure. I think the cure is out there. I don't know when that cure is going to be. It might be 20 years, might be 30 years, might be 5 years.
Where are they in that research?
There's a lot of interesting things going on out there. Like I said, I don't think it's 5 years away. Sometimes a lot of the research is a political football, and I won't get into politics this afternoon. We can save that for a different time. But there's a lot of interesting things going on, and it's an international cause. There still needs to be there's still a great need for a united front for paralysis. What I've seen since I've been hurt is a lot of fragmentation in the spinal cord injury community. It seems as though once people get notoriety, a little bit of recognition, they kind of go in their own way, and we could desperately use a united front, and to make a lot of voice.
And certainly on your website, you put links to all these organizations and everything going on. And I noticed you have an incredible support system. Talk about that, what that has meant.
Sure. So
how it's helped you.
First, on the links on the website, that website wasn't just created for me and to have my own website. That website's created for multi-purposes, and one of which is for families that are just going through what my family went through. No one gives you a book that says this is what to ask or this is how to do. So if you go to my website, there's a link there's a tab that says I have a spinal cord injury, what next? And it pretty much I had my mom, my family write down all the things that they wish someone would have told them. So since I've been hurt, it's gone to that I know of about 5 or 6 people that have gotten spinal cord injuries since mine. And it's just kind of like, it's silly things, just like make sure you have a pad and paper, make sure you ask for every file, and just explain like this is normal, this is going to happen. Ask the doctors this, ask the doctors that. I was fortunate enough to have, you mentioned my support system. My support system is everything. When you go through tragedy or any kind of thing, is your family and friends is what brings you up. And there's no way I could have done any of it without them. Going back to when I was in the hospital, when I first got hurt in the ICU in the emergency room, my family and friends literally camped out in the emergency room. It was like it was a joke. Everyone's like, man, this kid's got a lot of family and friends that care about him, and it was just a big picnic, a big powwow in there. And whether they were visiting me or not, because depending upon how I was medically, they do things like send a laptop around and just talk to the laptop and make videos. So when I did have a chance, I got to see everyone that was there that day. And then I left to go to Atlanta, which is obviously not in our neck of the woods. My girlfriend at the time would come down every weekend to visit me, and my cousin Matt, we were raised like brothers, spent every week with me, which were all funded from my employer, Boston Capital. All the employees pitched in their frequent flyer miles so that they could come down. So it's everything. And that's it's some people say, how can you be so optimistic, given the circumstances that you're in? There's people that have a hell of a lot worse than I have that are in the same condition but don't have that support group. And I remind myself of that quite often.
I mean, it's just incredible to me sitting and listening to you and what you've gone through and your attitude. But still, there must be a time that you sort of want to give up, how do you get through that? How do you push yourself through? You seem so strong.
So that's a great question. I do a lot of public speaking, and I do maybe 30% of it's on spinal cord injury awareness, and the rest of it is on going out and achieving your goals. And my hardships are a little bit more apparent to everyone because I'm in a wheelchair. But at the end of the day, we all face a lot of things, and whether it's emotional, physical, you never know what someone's going through in their day, And right now I'm upbeat, and maybe later on today I might have a dark moment, but it's a moment, and you kind of just put your head down, you grind through it, and you know that all right, it's not gonna last forever, and you do come out on a brighter side. You just have to remind yourself of that, and that's something that I'm still working on now. I don't have it down. I'm just I'm still experiencing it and trying to figure it out for myself. It's only been 2 years, but that's what I've realized so far is that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, if you will. You're gonna have your dark days, but the whole idea is to have this 365 days in a year. It's if I can get 300 good ones, I'm doing okay, and that's kind of where my head goes.
You have on your website, you wrote, and I know doctors have told you may not walk again. You said, I'm not only going to walk, I'm going to run.
Yeah, so
I'm going to run again.
So like I said, I was a big fitness guru, and I do believe in a cure. And one of the hardest things is the way I lived my life before I got hurt was to be in better shape at every birthday than I was the birthday before. And now that I'm in the wheelchair, I still have that mentality. And if I'm good, if a cure comes when I'm next year, if it comes when I'm 70, I plan on going for a run or whatever it is. Push myself to the absolute edge that I can, just because that's the way I lived before. That doesn't change. Your mentality doesn't change.
It's very apparent that you're incredibly mature, well-spoken, but I'm sure this situation has changed you. Have you always been like this? How have you matured more?
That's a good question. So I tell a lot of people that adversity just magnifies the individual that you were before. So those that kind of, there are people that just can't handle it, and their minds go. Unfortunately, I said I try to have 300 good days at least, and sometimes they only have 65 good days, but they were that person before they got hurt too, and I truly believe that this accident, this injury, any kind of adversity, sickness, tragedy, anything just magnifies the person that you were before. I was raised by good parents. I had good mentors, and I had a solid foundation. And that is everything to do with our lives. Is you can take everything away, like everything's been taken away from you, but you can't take away that foundation really, and you always constantly revert to that. And I think that's the biggest success that you can have in your life, is knowing the person that you are, and having a moral compass, and having those values, because you will recall upon them when times get dark, and I sure have. So
you mentioned you were working, you had a girlfriend, you were very active. Sounds like you had a full life. How do you spend your days now?
I'm busier than ever now. My whole idea is, if I'm sitting in that house, I'm not performing. I'm not living the life I should be living. And when you have free time, it's like the most dangerous time when you have a disability, because it gives you time to think. So therapy, I mentioned therapy. That's an everyday thing, and that takes about 25 hours of my week. I'm currently writing a book. I take some finance classes online. I'm trying to set up my future for tomorrow in terms of what I'm going to do for a business, be self-employed, and I've also been obviously giving an awful lot of thought of what my role in the spinal cord injury community is. So I wake up at 4:30 every morning. I get into my chair at 6, and I go to bed at 11:30. And the only time I ever watch TV is when I'm in bed, and I'm making sure I'm either reading, writing, researching, doing something. I'm a little bit slower than I was before, but I'm still pretty quick with these little mouth sticks here. So I'm living my life to the fullest that I possibly can.
Tell us about this chair.
So, you first get hurt, can't move your hands, can't do anything. as you can imagine, every part of your life is either texting, calling, typing on a computer. So I came back and everybody was my hands, and that's the biggest loss of independence. Is you can't. That's what disability is. It's you yearning for the slightest bit of independence, and anything that you can get is a monumental achievement. So I had these kids from Drake High School. We're in a program affiliated with UMass Lowell, adaptive technology program, and they said they somehow got my name. I forget how they did, and they contacted me, came out and said, what do you need? And I said, I have this desk. I just need you guys to modify it a little bit so I can actually work. And so what I have on here is I usually have 2 iPads. So I have a dual screen, and I can work simultaneously. I usually have Excel open, and then I have this guy, and I control everything with this mouse stick. So all my phone calls, all my writing, everything's with this. So I mentioned that I'm writing a book. I got over 120 pages written so far, and that's just me going like this,
Yeah, you're pretty quick on that, because when I call, you pick right up.
For the most part, yeah. Sometimes when I'm reclined, I miss your call because I can't swipe it fast enough. But it's working. This is, like I said, this has been the biggest piece of independence I've gotten since I've been hurt. And it's
Tell me about the book.
So the book, I mentioned your values and your mentors are everything. How do you get through such adversity? And you call upon that when you need them the most. And I had great parents, but I had these 3 guys. I call them the 3 wise men in my book. It was 2 grandfathers and an elderly guy that lived down the street from me that I used to hang out with. He was a very good friend of mine, and I learned life lessons that you can't just learn in a book. No pun intended. They're just real world life lessons, and it's sometimes we don't listen to our parents because they're our parents, and you might be more apt to listen to someone that's not your parent. And the things that I learned from them, from not necessarily things that they said, but just the way that they lived their life. We're talking about the greatest generation here, and I learned just timeless things that were just I called upon when I got hurt. And I'm sitting in that bed, and you're like, how am I going to get through this? And you start thinking back, these guys went through the Depression. One of the guys is my grandfather, who had an awful accident on a construction site and almost died, just to lose his wife 2 years later. And he raised a whole family, and his story is just remarkable. And those are the stuff that you start thinking about when you're in the room and you're on life support and your life changed in a matter of a second. It's like, if they can do it, I can do it. And how did they do it? You start thinking about everything that you've witnessed and seen them do, or you've heard them do, and that's kind of where my book goes.
Dana Reeve Foundation, Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation says that there are 1 in 50 people living with paralysis. 6 million people. What's their day like?
Well, I'm not sure what everyone else's day is like. I know there's some people that they don't have it as good as I. They don't. Whether it's because each state has certain medical policies through the state. There's some people that stay in their chairs way too long. They can't afford to have someone put them to bed at night. I'm not sure some people don't have these places that
What do you think the public should know about people who have spinal cord injuries?
I think that they should know that we are just as able as you are, for sure. That I think there is a cure, and I think that we could be, if we found a cure, it'd be a hell of a lot cheaper for society than it is to pay for all of us with all our medical bills and PCAs and everything else. But you can go both ways on that.
I know you have the race.
Restore the Bosch race.
Okay, yeah.
Talk about that. When is it? And how else are you able to pay for this?
Okay, so therapy is an enormous financial burden. It's $100 an hour, and each session's 2 hours usually. So you're spending upwards of $30,000 to $40,000 a year on therapy, which is, you think about that, it's astronomical. And unfortunately, my family's not. It's hard for a family that's accustomed to giving to be on the receiving end of other people's generosity. And that's probably one of the definitely hard parts of being disabled, or specifically with a spinal cord injury, is that you need this therapy. The therapy is the lifeline. The therapy keeps me limber. If science prevails, it's not that you just take a pill and you can walk again. I mean, there's extensive rehab that's involved. All your stuff. I mean, you guys get up and you put weight on your bones. you're constantly moving your hands and your arms, like all that stuff's got to be in working order. So the therapy is a lifeline, but it's $40,000, and no normal family can possibly pay for that. So my friends put together this 5K, and it takes place in Chelmsford, usually the first weekend in June, and we get upwards of 600 to 700 participants, and all the local businesses sponsor it, and that generally gets me through the entire year of therapy. And I mentioned I worked for a great employer, Boston Capital, and they continue to have in-house fundraisers for me, and they're always giving and giving and giving and giving, and that's how we get by, and yeah, it's pretty tough to always kind of be out there, and thank you. The words can't even explain how appreciative you are of generosity. I don't even know if people even understand how nice it is of them to, every day at therapy, every hour that I'm there, I think about everyone that's helped my family out, because I wouldn't be there if it wasn't for them, So that's another difficult part about the situation, but I'm very grateful.
So this is Roddy, and he's helping you.
Roddy, well, it's a funny story with Roddy. Roddy, we were told that Roddy was a service dog, and when we picked him up, we realized he wasn't, and so we started training him. I hired a trainer to help me out and have him, do some chores around the house to help me with daily living. But he's more of just a companion dog, and he's a great friend. And he came from a tough life. His owner passed away, and I had my accident. At first, he wasn't so sure about me, and the bond over the last 6 months we adopted him has become very close. And you can learn a lot from the dog. He has a lot going on in his life, but I come out here, he's absolutely obsessed with tennis balls. We play fetch, and he's just focused on that one thing. At the time, and I can kind of relate to that. You don't think too far ahead, think ahead, but don't get overly caught up in thinking ahead, and focus on the moment a little bit. So given that he was 7 and not 5, generally service dogs retire about 9. So by the time we got him fully trained, I'd only really have him for a year. So I have another dog that's inside right now, but she's a German Shepherd, and she comes from a great bloodline. And German Shepherds are a universal dog, and really smart. And she's now in training to be my service dog, and she should be good to go by another 6 months or so. She'll be opening doors for me and putting the lights on, taking the trash out, picking up my arm if it falls off the chair, putting my house get through.
Wow.
She'll be doing quite a bit. So.
She made you smile.
Oh, the dogs. Oh yeah, absolutely.
What else makes you smile?
Well, I like a good gin and tonic. That makes me smile. Family and friends, and I'm smiling all day, to tell you the truth.
Final thoughts, final message. You're certainly a hometown talent and treasure. You inspired me. I'm sure you're inspiring our listeners and viewers. Final words.
My final message is very straightforward. It's live to compete, not to survive. I got that quote from a Navy SEAL, Stu Smith, and that's how I lived my life before. That's how I'm living it now. And don't take one day for granted. A lot of people, when they get hurt, they say, I took all this for granted, yada yada yada. And I never took one day for granted. I woke up. I thought about paralysis before I had paralysis. I used to work out at a gym, and there was a kid with a disability there that would swim every day, and I was like, that must be a tough life, but he's still going to that gym and working out. It's like, that's inspiring. That's awesome. He's making the most out of his life. And that's, if we all did that, you have no regrets. Regrets to me is the worst thing you could possibly have, and I don't have many regrets, and I'm going to continue living that way.
Chris Boshar. The website is restorethebosh.com.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.